When retired Colonel Davis heard about Emma's rescue, the name sounded familiar. Betty Morrison. Where did he know that name from? That night he researched and found it. 1995, Bosnia. Master Sergeant Morrison, hostage rescue mission. Impossible odds, perfect execution. And now, she was driving an ice cream truck. Everyone in Elmwood knew Betty. Every afternoon at 3:30, her colorful ice cream truck would arrive, playing the cheerful Turkey in the Straw melody, and children would come running. Betty Morrison was 68 years old and had been driving the same route for 20 years. From Maple Street to Oak Avenue, then down to Pine Road. At each stop, the same ritual. Park, open the window, smile. The children called her Aunt Betty. She knew each of their favorite flavors. Tommy Chen, chocolate ice cream sandwich, extra napkin because he was messy. Sarah Martinez, strawberry popsicle, always pink. Little Michael, rocket pop, red, white, blue, because, like the flag, Betty. Betty was patient, kind, reliable. Rain or shine, she was there every afternoon. Parents trusted Betty. Children felt safe with her. She's like the neighborhood grandmother, Mrs. Patterson would say, always watching out for the kids. Betty's truck was simple. Basic ice cream selection, reasonable prices, no fancy decorations. Just happy music and a kind smile. And next to the driver's seat, where no one could see it, was a small photograph. Military unit, 1995, Bosnia. Thursday, October 15th. Betty started her route at 3:15 as always. First stop was across from Maple Street Elementary, school dismissal time. The children were excited, making weekend plans. Betty leaned out her window, taking orders. Aunt Betty, rocket pop. Chocolate sandwich, please. Do you have my strawberry? Betty was efficient but never rushed. She talked to each child, asked how school was, sometimes made jokes. 7-year-old Emma Williams was a regular customer. Blonde curls, bright blue eyes, always polite. Her favorite was vanilla ice cream cone. Hi, Aunt Betty. Can I have vanilla, please? Of course, sweetie. How was school today? We learned about butterflies. Did you know they taste with their feet? Betty laughed. I didn't know that, Emma. Thank you for teaching me. Emma paid her $1, careful not to drop the cone. See you tomorrow, Aunt Betty? See you tomorrow, sweetheart? Emma skipped toward her house, 3 blocks away. Betty watched her go, a habit from years of caring, then turned her attention to the next customer. At 4:15, Betty moved to her second stop on Oak Avenue. More children, more smiles, more ice cream. A routine day in a routine week. She didn't notice the dark van that had been following Emma. 5:30 p.m. Betty was cleaning her truck for the day when her phone buzzed. Amber Alert. Child abduction alert. Emma Williams, 7. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Last seen Maple Street area at 4:20 p.m. Suspect vehicle, dark blue van, license plate unknown. Betty's blood went cold. Emma, sweet little Emma who loved vanilla ice cream and butterfly facts. She grabbed her phone, called 911. This is Betty Morrison. I know the missing child, Emma Williams. I sold her ice cream at 4 p.m. today on Maple Street. Ma'am, can you provide any additional information? She was walking toward Pine Road when I last saw her, seemed happy, normal. Thank you, ma'am. Police are canvassing the area. Betty hung up, but something felt wrong. 20 years of selling ice cream in this neighborhood had given her instincts about what belonged and what didn't. Dark blue van. She'd seen one today, hadn't she? Betty closed her eyes, mentally reviewing the afternoon. Maple Street stop, children everywhere, parents picking up, and yes, dark van parked across the street, engine running, driver sitting inside, not getting out. She'd noticed because it was unusual. Parents usually got out to buy ice cream for their kids. This person just sat there, watching. Betty started her truck and drove back to Maple Street. Police cars were already there, officers questioning witnesses. She parked and approached Detective Johnson. Excuse me, officer, I'm Betty Morrison, ice cream vendor. I called in earlier about Emma. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling. Any additional information? I think I saw the van, dark blue, parked across from the school around 4 p.m. Driver was watching the children. Detective Johnson took notes. Can you describe the driver? White male, maybe 30s, baseball cap. Couldn't see much more. Direction of travel when it left? Betty thought. East on Maple, toward the industrial area. Thank you, we'll check it out. As police organized search teams, Betty stood by her truck, mind racing. Industrial area. She knew that area. Mostly abandoned warehouses. Few people around after 5 p.m. Perfect place to hide. What nobody knew was that Betty Morrison wasn't just an ice cream vendor who'd happened to notice a suspicious van. Before she drove a colorful truck through suburban neighborhoods, she was Master Sergeant Elizabeth Morrison, 75th Ranger Regiment, Special Forces Operational Detachment. For 15 years, she'd specialized in exactly this kind of mission: hostage rescue, high-risk extraction, impossible odds. And 25 years ago in Bosnia, she'd saved 12 children from a situation just like this one. Police were organizing grid searches, calling in helicopters, setting up roadblocks. Standard procedure, systematic approach. But Betty knew that in kidnapping cases, the first few hours were critical. She also knew the industrial area better than most. During her early years selling ice cream, she'd explored every street, every alley, looking for the best routes. Muscle memory from military training: always know your terrain. Betty made a decision. She drove her ice cream truck toward the industrial district but killed the music. Stealth approach now, not cheerful vendor. The area was mostly empty at 6 p.m. Loading docks, warehouse complexes, a few scattered cars. Betty drove slowly, methodically, using skills she hadn't needed for decades. Eyes scanning for unusual activity, vehicles that didn't belong, signs of occupancy in supposedly empty buildings. At the third warehouse complex, she saw it. Dark blue van, partially hidden behind a loading dock, same license plate pattern she'd glimpsed earlier. Betty parked her truck 2 blocks away and approached on foot. Movement careful, silent. Even at 68, training never left. The warehouse appeared abandoned, but there were fresh tire tracks in the dirt. The van had been moved recently. Betty circled the building, looking for entry points, escape routes, potential complications. Ground floor windows were boarded, but the second floor had several broken windows. Fire escape on the east side. She heard them before she saw them. Male voices, argument in progress. Supposed to call by now. Kid won't stop crying. Too risky, should have left town. Betty positioned herself near a broken ground floor window. Through the gap, she could see inside. 2 men, mid-30s, nervous energy. And in the corner, tied to a chair, Emma Williams. The little girl was crying but appeared unharmed, scared but alive. Betty assessed the situation with professional precision. 2 suspects, both appeared armed. 1 hostage, appeared mobile if restraints removed. Multiple exit routes available. Police backup, minimum 10 minutes away if called now. Suspects discussing departure plans. Window of opportunity closing. Betty retreated to her truck and called 911. This is Betty Morrison again. I found Emma Williams. Warehouse complex on Industrial Boulevard, Building 47. 2 suspects. Child appears unharmed. I am maintaining visual. Ma'am, stay in your vehicle, do not approach. Units are en route. Understood. But Betty didn't get back in her truck. Instead, she opened the maintenance compartment and retrieved items that most ice cream vendors didn't carry. Tactical flashlight, emergency knife, first aid kit. Tools she'd hoped never to need again. She also retrieved something else from a hidden compartment. Her old service weapon. Maintained, licensed, but unused for 20 years. Betty approached the warehouse from... Voices were getting more agitated. They were preparing to move Emma. Pack up everything. We leave in 5 minutes. What about the kid? Bring her. Too late to change plans now. Betty had 2 choices. Wait for police and risk losing Emma during transport, or act now while suspects were distracted. She chose action. Betty climbed the fire escape silently, entered through the broken second-floor window. From the upper level, she had a clear view of the ground floor operation. Suspect 1 was loading bags into the van through an open bay door. Suspect 2 was untying Emma from the chair, preparing to move her. Emma was crying, confused, scared. "I want my mommy. Please let me go home." "Shut up, kid. We're taking a trip." That's when Betty acted. 25 years of training, muscle memory, and protective instinct combined into 45 seconds of precise action. Betty descended to ground level, using stairs at the far end of the warehouse. Approached Suspect 2 from behind while Suspect 1 was outside with the van. "Federal agent!" Betty shouted, weapon drawn. "Release the child immediately!" Suspect 2 spun around, reaching for his gun. But Betty was faster, better trained, and absolutely determined. She disarmed him in 3 moves, using a restraint hold that rendered him unconscious but alive. Emma was free. "Emma, sweetie, it's Aunt Betty. You're safe now." Emma recognized her voice, stopped crying. "Aunt Betty? How did you find me?" "Never mind that now. We need to get you out of here." Betty heard Suspect 1 returning, shouting when he saw his partner down. She positioned Emma behind warehouse equipment out of the line of fire. "Police! Drop your weapon!" Gunfire was exchanged, brief but intense. When it ended, both suspects were neutralized, Emma was safe, and police sirens were getting closer. Police arrived to find Betty sitting calmly with Emma, both suspects restrained, situation completely under control. Detective Johnson approached carefully. "Ma'am, what exactly happened here?" "I found the suspects preparing to transport the child. I intervened to prevent her removal from the scene." "Ma'am, you said you were an ice cream vendor." Betty looked at Emma, who was being checked by paramedics. "I am. I also have other experience that was relevant to this situation." "What kind of experience?" Betty pulled out her old military ID, expired but still valid for identification. "Master Sergeant Elizabeth Morrison, 75th Ranger Regiment, retired." Detective Johnson's jaw dropped. "Your special forces?" "Was. Now I sell ice cream." "How did you... the tactical precision here is..." "Some skills don't fade, Detective, especially when children are involved." Emma ran back to Betty, hugged her legs. "Aunt Betty, you saved me." "You're safe now, sweetheart. That's what matters." Media arrived within the hour. Local news, then regional, then national. Story of the ice cream vendor who rescued a kidnapped child using military skills. Betty declined all interviews. "I was just doing what needed to be done." But the story spread anyway. Social media, news articles, TV segments. Ice cream lady hero saves child using Special Forces training. 3 days after the rescue, Betty received a phone call that changed everything.
"Ms. Morrison, this is Colonel Robert Davis, retired. I saw the news coverage of Emma Williams' rescue."
Betty paused. "Yes?"
"Your name sounded familiar. I did some research. Bosnia, 1995. Operation Restore Hope. You were Master Sergeant Morrison on the hostage rescue team."
Betty's hand tightened on the phone. "That was a long time ago, Colonel."
"I was Lieutenant Davis back then. You saved my life during that mission, and the lives of 12 children."
Memory flooded back. Young lieutenant, first deployment, over his head in a complex hostage situation. Betty's team had extracted him along with the civilian hostages. "I remember," Betty said quietly.
"I've been following your career for years, trying to find a way to thank you. When I saw the news about Emma Williams, I realized you never stopped rescuing people. You just changed your method of operation."
Colonel Davis was now retired, living 2 hours away. He drove to Elmwood that evening. When he saw Betty in her ice cream truck uniform, he saluted.
"Master Sergeant Morrison."
Betty smiled. "It's just Betty now, sir."
"No, ma'am. Once a hero, always a hero. The uniform changes, but the mission remains the same."
Word of Betty's background spread through the neighborhood. Parents who had trusted her with their children now understood why that trust had been so well placed. Children continued to call her Aunt Betty, but now their parents looked at her with new respect and gratitude. "I always felt safe when Betty was around," Mrs. Patterson told a reporter. "Now I know why." Veterans started seeking Betty out. Word spread in the military community that there was a retired Special Forces operator driving an ice cream truck in Elmwood. Young veterans, struggling with transition to civilian life, would approach her truck. "Ma'am, I heard you served. Army Ranger, just got back from Afghanistan. Having trouble finding purpose here." Betty would serve ice cream and talk. "What's your favorite flavor?" "Ma'am, ice cream. What do you like?" Chocolate, I guess." Betty handed him a chocolate ice cream sandwich. "You know what I learned in 25 years of military service?" "What's that, ma'am?" "The mission never really ends. It just changes shape. In the Army, I protected people by neutralizing threats. Now I protect people by being present, reliable, caring. Different tactics, same objective." "But ice cream, man, seems what? Small? Unimportant?" Betty smiled. "Son, every day I see 50 children. I know their names, their faces, their routines. If something's wrong, I notice. If someone threatens them, I'm ready. The ice cream is just the delivery method." The young veteran thought about this. Never considered it that way. Military taught us situational awareness, rapid response, protection of innocence. Those skills don't expire when you change uniforms. More veterans came. Betty's ice cream truck became an unofficial gathering point for military personnel transitioning to civilian life. 1 year after Emma's rescue, Betty received an unexpected honor. The Secretary of Defense wanted to present her with a Civilian Service Medal for her rescue operation and subsequent community work with veterans. "I don't need medals," Betty told the officials. "I have ice cream to sell." The ceremony was held at Elmwood Elementary School. The entire neighborhood attended, plus military personnel from 3 states. When they called her name, Betty walked to the podium in her ice cream truck uniform, medal in hand. "I wasn't planning to give a speech," she began, "but I changed my mind." She looked out at the crowd. Veterans, neighbors, children she'd served ice cream to for 2 decades. People ask me why I went from Special Forces to ice cream sales. They think it's a step down. They're wrong. She paused, looking at Emma Williams in the front row, healthy and happy. "In the military, I learned that the highest honor is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. When I retired, I didn't want to stop serving. I just wanted to serve differently." Betty held up the medal. "This belongs to everyone who chooses service over fame, presence over glory, daily commitment over dramatic gestures. Because real heroes don't retire. They just find new missions." She looked at the veterans in the audience. "For those transitioning from military to civilian life, your skills are needed here. Your training has value here. Protection, awareness, service. These missions continue in every community, every day." Emma Williams ran up to the podium and hugged Betty. "Thank you for saving me, Aunt Betty." "Thank you for letting me," Betty replied. As the ceremony ended and people dispersed, Betty returned to her ice cream truck. Tomorrow was Friday, and the children would be waiting for their afternoon treats. Colonel Davis approached her. "Master Sergeant, what's next for you?" Betty smiled, starting her truck's cheerful music, saying,